Hey, welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We're glad you're tuning into this episode. We are a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we really appreciate you listening, watching on YouTube. We really encourage you to subscribe to whatever platform you're using. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, or if you're on Apple or however you listen to a podcast, be sure and subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. Also, make comments if you like it and share it if you like it. We really need people to make comments and share the episodes that you like. And then also, if you're not already a supporter, we really would encourage you to go to spiritualityadventures.com and you can pick a tier, and we have bonus content for every type of giver. This is a nonprofit, so they're tax-deductible donations, but we do provide bonus content for those who are supporters. So be a part of the team, help support Spirituality Adventures, and we're so glad you're tuning into this episode. All right, welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and today I am interviewing Whitney Sauce. Thank you for joining us, Whitney.
Yeah, what a pleasure. Whitney
and I met through, I think originally, so Pam Hausner is one of my meditation teachers, and we've been doing stuff together now for almost 3 years, and I think I met you originally in one of the meditation things with Pam.
Yeah, I think that was right. Somewhere at TBC.
And then just kind of followed you on Facebook, and we've connected a couple of times since then. And Whitney is a conscious lifestyle coach, which we're going to get to a little bit later, but also, very avid participant in the meditation and yoga community here in Kansas City. And I just found that her story, the couple of times we've met, was very fascinating, fit well into the Spirituality Adventures world, particularly like the mental health world, the spiritual journey that's maybe connected to mental health.
Yeah, I think so.
And so I was excited to get a chance to interview you.
Yeah.
Plus, you're totally into fitness too.
I am.
And kind of an outdoors. You like we have a lot of similar interests. Yeah. So that was kind of fun too. So let's start with your story. Like, where were you born? Where did you grow up? Give us a little sense of your family background and, your spiritual journey in your growing up years kind of thing.
Yeah, so I was born in Independence, Missouri, and I love that. I feel like it's so just in alignment with who I am. I feel like I'm a very independent person, also interdependent, but so born in Independence. My parents divorced when I was 2, I believe. And so we kind of stayed with Mom. Dad moved away, and there was some, friction there where we weren't able to see our dad all that often. And so that next 12 years of life was just extremely traumatic. Grew up with an abusive stepfather, and it just kind of the whole house was living under intense stress at all times. My little brother ended up in foster care, and we moved in with my father, which, for a 12-year-old, my primary goal in life, and this is kind of interesting now, I'm connecting dots as an adult in therapy as to how that ties into my hero complex. So I felt like I needed to save my mom all the time.
Were you the oldest?
I was not, but I was the only girl.
Okay.
So, I was changing diapers with my little 5-year-old brother, and my mom was kind of doing her own thing, and she was, doing drugs, and there was a lot of just, unhealthy stuff in the house. And so at age 12, when we were separated from my mother, it felt like death. It felt like I was going to die. It was like, my mom's going to die, and then I will not be able to survive, because how will I survive without my mother? It's a very, instinctual feeling. And so I created a lot of drama with my dad. I had a lot of trauma, didn't know how to process my emotions, hated therapy, did not want anything to do with I felt like they were saying in a way, you're broken. You're broken, you've been broken, and we're going to fix you. And I'm like, try to fix this. So I sabotaged everything in my life. at age 16, the ADHD and the trauma was just so bad, and I just couldn't focus in school. I dropped out and had no interest in school at all. I was very interested in the creative classes, and I had a few teachers. It was Mr. Voos. If they see this, it would be so great. I don't remember his first name. Jamie Curtis and Miss Carroll, Gretchen Carroll, and they made such a big impact on my belief in myself. And
this movie?
It wasn't a movie. These were my high school teachers.
Oh.
Because I didn't care about school.
What was the name of the first one?
Mr. Voos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Voos.
Mr. Voos.
You referenced Jamie
Curtis.
Yeah. That was a teacher?
I believe that's her name.
Okay. I immediately went to Jamie Lee Curtis, the actress. So that's why all of a sudden flipped over into the movie thing. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. All right.
So they really inspired me, and I connected to some creativity in those classes. But other than that, I dropped out at 16, and I went back as a junior, and they put me through a special education program. It's called Missouri Options for kids who weren't interested in school. So I sat in a tiny little classroom with a computer, and I got, like 3 classes a day. And as long as I passed my test, I could get my high school diploma. And so I did, and I got my high school diploma. I was able to walk with my class. And as soon as I got out of the military, as soon as I got out of high school, I knew that where I was in life, it was like, I have nothing. Like, there's no opportunity for me here. I'm headed down a really bad path if I stay in this. And so my stepmom recommended that I enlist in the military and said, hey, if you wanted to go to school, it'd be paid for. You can get out of here. You can go learn new things, meet new people, develop new skills. And I was like, well, I ain't got nothing else going on. So I went and I took my ASVAB, and I passed, and they put me in as a military police officer. So I spent the next 6 years in the Army at National Guard as a military police, which was, night and day from what I was living at the time. And, in high school, I was already using drugs, drinking. 14, I think I had my first Smirnoff, and I was like, that was the end of that. So, or the beginning, I guess.
Yeah. So 6 years in National Guard with the Army.
Yeah.
And I think I asked you, you didn't know I mentioned a chaplain to you, Gary.
No.
Chaplain Gary. Yeah, you didn't know.
I only knew one chaplain. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a guy named Gary.
No.
Right?
It was a female, actually.
Okay. So you where were you serving in America in the National Guard?
Yeah. So my first duty station was in Harrisonville. It was the 1139th Military Police Battalion, which was all MPs, and it was very strict and rigid and challenging. I was also, I think this is funny, I was diagnosed with what is it called? It's ODD, oppositional defiance disorder.
Okay.
I was like, okay, well, that sounds like a lot of leadership to me. So yeah, I didn't really like following rules if they didn't make sense to me. And so in the military, I'm sure you can imagine that there are a lot of rules that don't make sense. And so I moved to Columbia with the intention of going to college, and I was transferred to a higher headquarters unit, which was a lot more chill because it was all really high up people that they don't have time to worry about what you're doing. So it was a lot easier. I think it was 2016. I might be wrong, but when Mike Brown was killed in Ferguson, we were deployed, and so we were in a hostile combat area in the United States. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Wow. So how did the military affect your own journey in terms of like all the trauma that you just talked about? Did it add to the trauma? Did it affect you when you came out of the military? Where were you at emotionally, mental health wise? Were you better off? Were you worse off?
So, I mean, if you imagine given like a really uncontrollable, angry 3-year-old a gun and a bulletproof vest, that's about how I was.
Okay.
But then like add drugs and alcohol. And so like Yeah, I was a mess. I was a hot mess. And the military instilled a lot of skills within me that I wasn't fully using at the time, that I now am able to tap into a lot more. But I think it's kind of a DNA thing, because, there are people in the military who don't have the warrior DNA. They're like, their their response to chaos is flight or freeze. Mine was never that. Mine has always been fight. I will run into any war zone anytime. Like, something's going on, I'm running in. And I've done it a lot of times, and it's fascinating to me to witness. But yeah, with all that trauma, they put armor on me, metaphorically and literally. And so now I'm in the biggest, organized, I hate to say it, but kind of like organized gang in the world. And so I've got this huge team of people that have my back. And so I just couldn't be fucked with. And I wasn't scared of anything. And I was angry at everyone and everything. And I did not like myself. And I didn't have any connection to any joy or love. And so it was crazy. My brother, he called me one time and he said, Whitney, you need to let go of the hate in your heart. Like, there's a shift coming, and if you're not on board, you're going to get left behind. He was talking about ascension and all this spiritual stuff, and I was like, you are on drugs.
Right.
In hindsight, I was the one on drugs, projecting. And so a few years later, I recorded that conversation when he said that. I was like, I don't have any hate in my heart. I'm like fighting all the time, going to jail, and like just wild. And I found that voicemail or that recording, and I was so embarrassed I deleted it right away, which I later regretted. But it was part of the awakening, So getting out of the military, I was just in shambles. And then
How long ago was that?
I got out in 2017.
Okay. All right.
So
7 years ago, something like that.
Gosh, I feel like I'm 21. So yeah, the dark road led me to rock bottom. I mean, it was bad. I was living in a house that was infested with rats. I couldn't get a better place because I had an eviction on my record.
Like here in Kansas City somewhere?
Yeah. In Independence.
Okay.
And I was just at such a low point. I wasn't eating right. I mean, I was just eating like bags of chips. I'd wake up, eat some chips, get ready for the club, go to the club. And then it was about every day for a few years of just getting drunk and getting high and trying to disconnect from the pain that I knew was going to come up if I was sober. If I sit still for 1 minute, I will have to endure the pain that I've never processed. And yeah, so I was out at the club one night, and I was with a friend doing drugs, and
like you're just out partying somewhere, like club and jumping. Okay.
Every single night there was something to celebrate.
Okay.
Celebrate.
Right.
But I received a Snapchat from a guy that I had just met that night, who was my friend from high school's cousin, and he said Carlos is dead, and I had just left Carlos, and we had just done all the same drugs together, and
he OD'd?
He overdosed.
Oh, wow.
And he died, yeah.
Ugh.
And it rocked my core, and it scared me, because he wasn't the first one. His best friend died the month before. And the month before that, there was someone else, and the month before that, and it was drug overdose, suicide, murder. Every single month there was somebody dying. And I was so scared, and I locked myself in that crap hole of a house, and I said, no more. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to figure out what it is that I need to be happy, and I'm going to do it. And I knew that nobody was going to support that journey that I was around, because all of my friends were I was only a benefit to them when I was the party girl. And so I actually saw a meme on Instagram, and it changed my life. It said, and I'm so grateful. It said, no one cares if you don't go to the party. And I was like, malarkey. Like, of course they care. It's me. Well, I stopped going, and no one cared. And I was like, okay.
Interesting.
Well, then I'll just take care of myself. And I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you hole up in a house.
Yeah.
You decide not to party.
Yeah.
So where does it go from here?
I knew I wanted to start a business because I don't like taking orders. So I said I will completely immerse myself in business and I will not give myself any time to party. There's no celebration worthy of me falling off track. And I didn't. That first 6 months, I was like square. Somebody gave me a desk. I cleaned out a room in my house and I sat in that room until I figured out what it was. And I remember in the beginning of that journey, one of the things that was recommended when, trying to figure out what kind of business you want to start was like, figure out what you like. And so I made a list of all the things that I loved and I stared at this blank piece of paper for so long. And I just was like, I don't like anything in this whole world. I wrote down my dog. I loved him. But I still questioned it. I'm like, do I really love him? Like, what is love? What am I passionate about? I have no idea. And that was such a pivotal moment in my life where I knew I needed to start experiencing life a different way. So I got in my car and I drove for 21 days across the United States. And I got to experience people who didn't know me as Whitney the drug addict. Yeah, and so...
like you just randomly pulling into places and meeting strangers and in
everywhere,
hotels or camping grounds or
bars, food places. Okay. Like not bars, I wasn't drinking, but food places, like malls, just gas stations, wherever I'd go.
You literally, like, you started in the Midwest. Did you go to one coast and then back across to the other one? Or?
I went Route 66 all the way to Texas, and then so New Mexico, Colorado. I think I came back through Colorado. New Mexico, Texas, Utah. I didn't know where I was.
Kind of like did a Southwest trip.
I did, and then came back up around.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I hiked some mountains. I met people on the mountains, and just they were like, "Hey, come camp with us. We love your energy." And I'm like, "Okay." And I just listened, and I just experienced life a different way, and it just like changed my whole life. Yeah.
It's like, did you ever see Into the Wild movie?
Did he die?
Yeah, Chris McCandless called him Supertramp. And
Supertramp.
But it's a great story, but it ends sadly because he wanted to get off the grid up in Alaska and he ended up
freezing to death,
starving to death. But it's really, John Krakauer is one of my favorite authors. He wrote this story called Into the Wild, and then years later, Sean Penn got permission from the family to turn it into a movie.
Oh, wow.
And Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam wrote the entire soundtrack
for
the movie. So all of that makes it one of my favorites. But anyway.
Fun. That's cool.
But he went off the grid, he went from Georgia across all the way like down to the southwest corner, then up and around, and then wound up in Alaska. And so.
Wow. Alaska.
Yeah. So you find that you're getting feedback from people who really don't know you from your military world, your party world, your crazy world. What kind of feedback people are liking your energy and giving you feedback about Whitney without all of that context? What did you get from that? So
I forgot to mention, around that time before I had left on the journey, it actually started when I was still doing the drugs. And so cocaine was the main drug that I was on, because when you drink, if you do cocaine, it makes you feel a little more stable. And so I wasn't really addicted to the cocaine. I was addicted to the alcohol. But the cocaine would make my heart just race out of my chest. And I would be laying there and thinking, like, I'm going to die. Like, I need to take my mind off of the fact that I might die right now. And I think it was God, because I don't know how else I could have possibly come across this. But I downloaded Audible, and the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle was the book that I downloaded, my freebie.
Wow. Interesting.
I know. And I listened to it about 30 times all the way through.
Oh, wow.
Before it finally, I couldn't hear it. My brain was so fried. I couldn't hear anything. I was like, what in the hell does he mean?
Huh.
And one day I woke up and I was like, I think I got it. I think I finally get it. And so it's funny because I was listening to Eckhart Tolle to put me to sleep, and he was actually waking me up. Isn't that
great.
really, yeah. And so, I mean, I remember going outside one day and like looking around, and I was like, I have been living in a world with like a veil over my eyes. Like I couldn't see anything clearly. And I felt like I saw everything more clear than I had ever in my life. It's like everything is breathing. Everything is alive. Like there's energy all around me and I am connected to it. And so when I met these people on this journey, it was a new me. So it was a space for me to be that new me where I had these new eyes and this new level of appreciation and positivity. And so I was getting a lot of feedback about like, wow, you are like, you know, just shining so brightly and you're so loving and you're so nice and open and kind. And I'm like, yeah, I'm awake. Like, I'm here. I love my life. Like, I have no idea when I'm going to get back, what I'm going to do, but right now I love my life and that's what matters.
Wow. That's interesting. I was just playing for Matt a new song that I've had on repeat the last few days called Spotless. And I'm not a huge country fan, but it's Zach Bryan and the Lumineers.
Oh, I love that.
Doing this song called Spotless. I ain't spotless, neither is you. For once in my life, I'm going to see it through. But there's this line that says, people die 1,000 deaths to get to who they are.
It's so true.
And I'm like, oh.
Oof, yeah.
Oh. So that's what popped into my head because I've been listening to this song.
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden you're awakening to like closer to your true self, maybe?
Yeah.
Would you say it that way?
I
Or
think so. Yeah.
at least you're getting on that path anyway, right?
Yeah.
So you end this trip out, and where do you go from there? How do you end up as a conscious life coach? And tell us what that's all about and what that is. How did you get to that?
So yeah, I went, through Vegas, got to see my brother, and finally made my way back home. I was like, okay, I should probably, this is spontaneous and fun, but I should probably figure out what I'm going to do with my life now. So I got all that inspiration, and I went back home, and I Googled how to be happy, and that might have been beforehand. So I kind of have a hard time with the timeline, but at one point in there, I discovered the Buddhist temple on the plaza and started attending meditations while still on cocaine. And so that was a death in its own, just literally feeling like I'm going to die. But I knew I had to keep going, and I did. And I finally was able to get sober on my own. I didn't ever talk to anybody about it. I never asked for any help. Nobody knew. And so I just grabbed myself by the boots and pulled myself up.
Wow.
And
I was popping into, so I got out of rehab in 2019, and I was hunting around for, I ended up connecting to a recovery hall up here in the Northland, but I was going to the plaza to Unity, and they had a Buddhist recovery thing that I popped into every now and then.
Yeah.
Down there, and I can't even remember what they called it, but
it's
it
the
was
12 steps with Buddha or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and
what a great alternative for people who.
Yeah, and I was connecting. That's where I finally met Pam with that meditation. Those were the two meditation things that I started doing after rehab, and when I was in rehab. That's when I was exposed to the DBT therapy model, dialectical behavioral therapy, which has a mindful meditation component to it, right?
Finally.
And that was, I had a crazy rehab experience, but that was the one thing that I kind of latched onto. I think this would help me. Oh. So when I came out of the rehab, that's why I kept kind of I started knocking around the city trying to figure out, well, who's doing meditation, and that kind of
TBC, yeah.
So
cool. So the kind of drugs and meditation brought us together.
Right. So you found that, and you started practicing meditation while you still weren't completely sober, right?
Yeah, I kind of had some relapses after that. Thought I've been sober for a little while, I can go party.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
And I finally got completely sober about, I think it was 2018.
Okay.
And yeah, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and then I heard this term life coach, and I'm like, wait a minute, I have always wanted to be a teacher. I wrote it down when I was a kid. I want to be a cop, I want to be a writer, I want to be a teacher, and I have done all three. And so I learned, well, I can learn things and then I can teach people them. I'm like, I've had such a hard life. Like, if I can learn how to heal it, I can make all my pain worth it to me. I can make it meaningful to me and make, kind of empower myself in that way. And so I just started learning stuff, and I just started teaching it, and I just started saying, I'm a life coach. And it was so fraudulent. I'm showing up to networking meetings, and I'm like, I'm a life coach. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, question mark? I don't know. I have this lump in my throat, like I'm going to vomit. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And, I had a lot of hate come in from the group of people from before that were like, you are nothing. Like, you'll never be anything. And so don't even try. Oh. I actually saw a guy that said some of those things to me. He commented on my Facebook post publicly and was like degrading me. And I saw him recently at like a concert, and I just took off running. I was like, I don't want to be around you. Oh. So I just took off running, and all my friends ran and followed me. It was funny.
But you pressed in.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I pressed in, and so I started with...
I had a friend who was a mentor of mine. He had this funny statement. He said, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Yeah. And by he didn't mean like not to, he wasn't saying don't strive for excellence. But
failure is the prerequisite.
But yeah,
that's where you learn.
That's what he was getting at.
I think it's really important for us as a society to redefine how we experience failure. I think it's holding a lot of people back.
Yeah, and the fear of it, right?
The
fear of it.
One of my mantras is like, I'm going to fuck this up, and I give myself permission to do that.
Yeah,
I'm going to mess it up. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm...
No, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. You're fine.
Yeah, so I'm like, if I just give myself permission to screw up, then I'm going to do a lot more than if I'm worried about not screwing up.
Yeah.
So screwed up all the way here.
I kind of took it to heart. That's why I remember it, because I'm like, okay, I can do that.
It's a lot easier.
I can try something to mess it up.
Yeah.
But then you learn and then you grow, so.
That's where all the growth happens.
Yeah, so how did you navigate into actually getting some legit credentials around the life coaching thing?
So, I went through an online course. It was on Udemy. It was not very good. And for some, I think I'm just delusional. There's a like trending thing going around, trending audio going around on Instagram that's like, what gave you the confidence? She's like, delusion. Like, that is definitely, so I just started embodying it. I got the foundations, like the very basic principles from a life coaching course. And then I did it eventually. So I started getting clients. I had like 10 clients my first few months, which was insane.
That is
insane. I made business cards and put them out, and people called me, and I was like, yeah, it's $50 an hour. And they would just hire me. And I'm like, man, yeah.
Awesome.
And so eventually I hired life coaches to train me, and I worked with 2 high-ticket life coaches. And then I worked I've been in a ton of life coaching trainings since then. And it kind of evolved from spiritual coaching to confidence coaching to authenticity coaching. And when you're selling something, it's important to know, how to explain to your market what you're selling. And so the niching down part has always been a struggle for me. I'm like, I want to help people be better. I want to help people feel better and love their lives. So how do you sell that? And, recently, I have coined conscious lifestyle coach because I think that is all encompassing of what I'm doing. It's like in every facet of my life, I want to be mindful. I want to be conscious. I want to be present, and I want to allow the Holy Spirit to guide me in any way that it can. He, they, whatever can. And I want to be present with gratitude and acceptance, even when it sucks. Because things happen that suck no matter what. And so if I can have equanimity in those moments, then my life is, there might be pain, but there's no more suffering. And I think suffering is optional. And so that's how this very short bubble of how I got here.
Yeah. So give us some of the insights into what brought you to conscious lifestyle coaching. Like if you had to say 3 key elements of your own healing and journey that now come out regularly in what you do with people. What if you had to boil it down to three philosophies or elements? I'm not asking this question very well.
Yeah, you're asking it really difficult, but I think I've got the essence of it.
Okay.
I'd say mindfulness is definitely the big,
and tell
one.
Tell us your definition, or how do you describe mindfulness to somebody? Why is that important? So let's say that's one thing.
Yeah.
So why tell folks why you think that's
You'll
important.
have to reel me back in to answer the other two.
Yeah, and then
okay.
I will. Okay.
So mindfulness is being present in the moment and being comfortable enough to know what's happening within your own experience, and understanding your own experience. I think one of the key elements in life is relationships. And so if I don't know what I'm experiencing, if I don't have awareness of my patterns or my reactions or responses to things from my past, then I can't have a conversation with you, because you say something, it hurts me, and I'm triggered. I'm going to defend myself. And that means we're fighting. We don't want that. So mindfulness to me is knowing what's going on in the present moment, being able to have the awareness of what's going on around you and what's going on within you. And also mindfulness, I believe, is knowing that our inner world is creating our outer world. And so by knowing what's going on within me, I can see how I'm attracting the things that I am attracting. So that's kind of part of it.
All right.
Small part. It's always so interesting to define mindfulness.
It
because
is.
There's so many ways.
I have to do a part of my 2-year training with Tara Brock and Jack Kornfield. I have to do in fact, I'm going to start in March. I have to do a 6-week class, Introduction to Mindfulness.
Wow.
So I'm starting to work on that. Okay, so what is this thing that I'm trying to do, and learning and all that. So, okay, so mindfulness, what would be a couple of other things in terms of what's important to what you're doing now in terms of your coaching? Mindfulness is
authenticity.
Okay.
It's authenticity.
Dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. And it's interesting because authenticity sometimes will be so inauthentic, because what we're used to, the way we're used to being, if we're attached to that and we think that's our authentic self, then it's going to feel wildly inauthentic to become something else. Like me saying, hey, I'm a life coach, was like, you're a liar. That's not true. And, I kept saying it, and here I am. But to become our authentic self, we have to let go of the things that are not our authentic selves that we have become so familiar with. And I would say a comfort zone, but it really is a familiarity zone. It's not ever comfortable when you're stuck in that place. And I think a lot of people are struggling with that. So authenticity, the mindfulness helps you to become aware of your internal experience and your own patterns and habits, belief systems. And then once you have the mindfulness, you can become authentic, and you can have this radical authenticity with other people, which I think is one of the most profound gifts that we can offer. Because you're no longer guessing, is she okay? What is she thinking? How is she feeling? Is she telling me the truth? So you're going to have a lot more peace knowing, hey, I can trust Whitney, because I know that when things happen, she tells me how she's feeling, or she'll tell me, the truth, even if it's maybe not the night or like the kindest or gentlest thing. I try to be gentle when I'm delivering the truth, but like, if I have my own truth, I want to be able to communicate that. And so people trust me, and I trust myself a lot more because of that. And so I think that's kind of what authenticity is. It's like knowing yourself and having the courage to be yourself.
Yeah, and would you say that honesty is a huge part of that?
Radical honesty.
Yeah.
With yourself. It has to start with yourself, because sometimes people are lying to themselves. They don't even know.
Right. Yeah, I've, in the AA world, it talks about rigorous honesty, and I call it brutal honesty.
People do like to say
because because it felt, like here I was this, big megachurch pastor, and then all of a sudden my whole life just falls completely apart, and it's very public, and it's humiliating in front of tens of thousands of people, and I just wanted to die. I just wanted to get off. I really didn't want to live anymore, honestly, even though I wasn't actively suicidal, but it's probably passive suicide ideation, kind of stuff, where you're just like, I don't care if I live or die, and I really don't want to be on this planet anymore, right? And so and then I get into the recovery world, and just like, okay, I'm going to just be brutally honest with these folks, and
it's so scary at
first.
Like
it's coming out of my mouth, and I'm not even wanting to hear that about myself, but I just kept pressing into it.
But what happened when they received it? And
well, that was the thing, is I was questioning God's existence, even though I became a pastor when I was 16, came out of the drug culture when I was 16. I wasn't like a heavy dude. I was just like a recreational drug user, but didn't really care about spiritual things too much. And then all of a sudden I had this radical experience, became a follower of Jesus, felt called to be a pastor, and I lived that thing, preached, taught, everything, and then all of a sudden my whole world falls apart. And I was literally questioning even the existence of God. And what I would say is that the people who heard my brutal honesty and then kept loving me and caring for me helped me understand God's love.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like the people who knew Fred at his worst in my mind and then loved me anyway.
Yeah.
Helped me forgive myself.
And
actually.
Like where you're at now because of that.
Yeah. And so, the crazy thing is some of those people never knew successful Fred. They only knew Fred the fuck up. And I say that very, I literally, that was me. And so like people who came into my life and loved me at my worst, it's like, wow, that's a gift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's how that impacted my world, is that I think it started helping me forgive myself. Yeah. And then also those dark pieces of me had to be integrated into the whole. Mm-hmm. And rather than trying to resist it and push it away, it's like, okay, what is this, Fred? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do, why, all this kind of thing. So integrating the shadow work stuff, what I'm talking about there. All right. So mindfulness, authenticity, is there another like key, like, and you've talked about core values. I'm kind of digging into like core values for you,
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
What?
So knowing yourself and defining your values, it's really about, and I love this because I'm a writer, it's about authoring your own story and realizing, you are the main character of your life, and you're the one writing the story, and you're the one making the decisions that are getting the outcomes that are happening. And so when you realize that you can change your story and you start writing the story that you want to live in, in my opinion, the way to do that is, make peace with the story that you have. And oftentimes that happens by sharing it with others because, man, we covet that. We hold it so tight and close to us. Like, I have this shame. I have this self-hatred. I can't let anybody see it. And that shame, it thrives in secrecy. And so when we share it, it's like the bubble gets popped and it's like, well, if someone else can love me and I'm such a fuck up, well, then maybe I can love someone else. Maybe I can love myself. And so defining and aligning, defining your values and aligning with them, I think would be the third component. I want to say spirituality, but, really the mindfulness and the authenticity, that part connects you to spirit.
Yeah.
I think that what I'm realizing in my work is that I can get a person to that place where they're being led by spirit without calling it spirituality. It doesn't have to be called spirituality.
Right.
Which was kind of a curveball because I'm like, it is to me spirituality. It's my connection to God in every moment and being guided by that higher power. But some people don't resonate with it.
Right.
And I want everyone to feel like they have access to this special place because they do. And so that was that was the moment when I was like, okay, I'm not a spiritual coach. Like, I want to work with people on how to be happy, and they'll find their God. So that's what's important to me.
Good. So did you, in terms of your own personal healing and journey to where you can now share and help other people, were there some other key components to the healing process for you personally?
I could write a book. I will.
Yeah.
I'll give you the outline, but Robert Brummett was one of the key components. We did a lot of somatic therapy.
Yeah, you might share who that is because I haven't met him, but
I don't know that he's open to taking on clients.
But you can just give the context of who that is, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think he was a minister for 40 years. He started his own congregation, and he was on the board of Unity, the original Unity, which is in Lee Summit, which is such a blessing to have, like, to be close to, and so awesome. But Dr. Robert Brummett, he's written 4 books. He is a spiritual teacher. He developed something, I can't remember what it's called. It's like some kind of healing modality.
Okay.
But the somatic therapy, this is really fascinating because, what's the one that diagnoses you and gives you the medicine? It's a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist that I have communicated with, I'm always asking them, what holistic modalities do you know of? If you tell me you're in mental health, I want to talk to you. And none of them know about somatic healing, which could be yoga or, the kind of therapy that I'll mention now. Robert would guide me. We would sit in silence for a moment, and he would say, okay, now what's coming up for you? And, it'd be this intense emotion. We'd locate it in the body, which comes with, the awareness, the mindfulness, being in tune with your body and what your very, very wise and intelligent body is communicating with you. So like your anxiety, that's an indication of something that you need to listen to. It's telling you, hey, maybe don't drink all that coffee. Maybe don't go to that place or date that guy or whatever. Locating those things in my body and then like going into them and experiencing that emotion with my eyes closed. It would be like a hard, rock, like a hard black rock, just somewhere located in my body, wherever. And we'd sit with it and we'd breathe into it and it would literally dissolve. And by the end of the call, I felt like it was gone. There was no talk therapy. There was no there was no mental. It was all like just a pure release. So the somatic practices have been the most catalytic for me. In addition to that, I'd say meditation, gratitude, like writing out my gratitude, what I'm grateful for, and experiencing it in my body. Like imagining my life without the things that I have, and then realizing like, whoa, I have a lot to be grateful for. In the beginning, that was very challenging for me. So I started blindfolding myself for my morning routine. And I said, what if I didn't have eyes? What if I didn't have my left arm? And I'd start doing those things to really like challenge myself and help retrain my brain. Journaling, yoga has been obviously one of the main things, which I started because I had fractured both my hips in the military, and my hips were just like, I was in pain all the time. And I had this belief that we start getting old and the body starts falling apart like a car and you can't afford to fix it and then you just kind of die. And if you know any yogis, that is not the case. If you take care of your body, you will be in good health until you die. And that was really profound for me. So I was like, okay, I want to be healthy. Yoga, meditation, gratitude, journaling was a really powerful one that I had let go of because when I was a kid, my father would read my journals and I'd get in trouble. And so I was scared to write.
Oh, wow.
So I had to overcome that to get, and now I write everything. And yeah, positive friendships. I had a woman look me in the eyes and say, "Good morning, Whitney." And I was like, oh my God, she can see me. She can see through my soul right now. And her name was Maka. Do you know Maka?
No, I don't.
Maka Greenleaf Maple. She is an angel. And her loving motherly presence in that moment, it was like, oh my gosh, I am lovable and I am worthy of love. And
that's awesome.
so yeah, having people in my life that cared about me and didn't have a secret agenda. Learning how to identify secret agendas, that was another part.
Yeah. The book, The Body Keeps a Score.
So good.
And, it's kind of like become like the foundational document, book for the kind of body work so the mind body split, right? Where we, that's a big part of meditation, right?
Yeah.
Is learning to connect mind spirit with the body. Whereas we tend to disassociate from our body.
We think our body is our mind.
Right. And then you were talking about these dark things in your body that would dissolve.
Insane.
What were those things dissolve? What was that? And talk about a little bit of that. Why is it important? Because like in meditation, you learn to anchor with your body, right? Either your breath or, some part of your body is what anchors you in that meditation process, right? Yeah, I think so many people are disconnected from their body, right? And the wisdom of their body, and they don't know how to literally check in. And like you were describing these black things that felt like a dark black thing that dissolved as you did this body, mind, spirit work kind of stuff. Help us understand, for people who don't even, why is it important? How does that help us heal when we connect with our body? Yeah.
So the way that society is now, it's so fast-paced in the West. We have technology, we have porn, we have social media, we have like unlimited alcohol. It's just music, everything, anything that you can keep yourself busy and distracted, it's available. Food, all these different things, drugs, whatever. And so people aren't used to processing their emotions or feeling into their body. And so it's such a level of discomfort when they do feel into that they turn to their phone or they turn to, these other things. So I think people are disconnected from their body because there's something that's trying to come up. Like, hey, maybe your whole entire life's out of alignment and you need to get to work, and that's terrifying because you might have to leave your partner or you might have to quit your job or, something really scary. And people, I think, are checking out because they're not ready for that. So for me, I was never taught as a child how to process my emotions. It was like, sit down, shut up, speak when I tell you to, don't speak unless spoken to. It was very like, you're a pawn in our system. You're nothing, go outside. And so it was just me, little old me taking care of me. And so, I had all these, what I think it was, and like I said, it was physical, but it was not a mental experience. Like you would think, well, your brain's thinking about these things. Like I'd connect to it and it was all a full body experience, not like it was this and this and this. It was like, no, it was a dark fucking blob and it melted inside of me. But I'll go more into it from what I can. I think that they were traumatic experiences that were locked into my body. And a common misconception is that trauma is in the mind, and it's not true. Like you said, the body keeps score. It highlights how our entire body holds the trauma. And I love this concept of animals, when two dogs fight, immediately they'll shake it off and they keep going. And that's it. But humans, we don't shake it off. We don't give ourselves that opportunity to decompress or take care of ourselves. Because why? We got to get back to work. We're in scarcity mode. We got to take care of the bills. We, don't want to access that certain part of our body. We don't want to hear the wisdom that's coming up. So I'd be in a meditative state, and it was a very intuitive experience getting in tune with my body. And Robert is an amazing teacher. It's such a gift to be able
I've heard great things about him from other friends of mine, yeah. So
he does have a lot of talks on the TBC Facebook where they record the Sunday services, and if you scroll down, you can find some of his Dharma talks.
Okay.
Just a wonderful human.
Okay, cool.
I just spent 6 days in silence with him to ring in 4 days in silence, ringing in the New Year with him in a retreat. And stuff still comes up. I still get so triggered, and there's still stuff in there. And it's been, 6.5 years, 7 years of meditating and feeling these things in my body, but I can communicate when I'm upset now instead of screaming or hitting someone because I want to shut down. And that, to me, is just like, it gives me the ability to have relationships and to have a life that I can enjoy, and so I think a lot of people will just shut down or react or defend, and there's no real growth happening. It's
that what you resist persists idea, and it sounds so counterintuitive, but you have to go through the trauma to heal the trauma.
You do,
right?
Yeah. So you have to sit and feel it.
You have to feel it
to heal it,
and it's so scary.
Yeah,
because it feels like it could engulf you and destroy you. You know what I mean? Like
it does.
Yeah, right.
It in that moment when you breathe through it, you're like, "Whoa,
yeah,
I am invincible," and then you do it again, and you're like, "I'm invincible." And it keeps coming up, but yeah, each time you reclaim a little bit of your power.
And it's hard work, hard in the sense that you got to be willing to press into it.
It's terrifying.
And hear the darkness. Learn.
Yeah.
There was a book that I read early on, and it's called "Let Your Life Speak" by Parker Palmer, who's a spiritual guide. Came from a Quaker background, but it's the first book I read where he went into like a deep, long, dark depression. Like I think it was maybe a year or two, like where he just couldn't hardly function, and so he talks a lot about the shadow work, pressing into the darkness, hearing what your body and your traumas needs to say.
Or your inner child.
Yeah. But then to heal and integrate all of those parts of ourselves.
Yeah, the integration.
It's a lot of work, and I've worked in recovery and with therapists and with the meditation stuff as well. But I think that's why most people don't want to do the work, is it's scary. You think it's going to overpower you or take you.
It will kill your ego.
It does that, right?
And it feels like death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes back to that people die 1,000 deaths to get to who they are.
Oh, yeah.
Oof.
You got to let go.
Yeah.
And people are like, but then what? Then what? Then I'm floating in space? Mm-hmm. Then I'll explode. I'll die. That's how it feels. Mm-hmm. And then you let go and you're like, whoa, I'm free and I'm light. I'm not held down anymore by these things these beliefs that anchored me into this reality that was not ever real. These projections or, experiences, these things that other people said that keep you stuck.
Yeah, so talk about, give us, we only got a few minutes left, so give us some what's the hope that can happen as we press into this kind of work, and then tell people how they can connect to you as well in terms of your work.
Yeah. What's on the other side is I refer to it as soul confidence, because it's not the confidence that most people talk about, which is I've got a Lamborghini and a $16,000 watch and I can get in any club I want. It's like you can walk into any situation, you can talk to any homeless person with no fear. You can go to the top of the highest building with the wealthiest people and you have no fear. You can communicate what it is that you need to communicate with trust and confidence in that you will be guided in that moment. That's been the most profound thing for me. I'm not scared of anything anymore. I have no restrictions. Like if something comes up, I'm going to do it. And I think that's just, it is freedom. It's freedom from the limitations that other people put on you. It's the ability to decide what it is that you want for your life and to take life by the horns and go for it. It's the ability to hear the calling and say, okay, I'm going to answer it because I know it's going to be the best thing for me. Profound. Letting go of what your own desires are, which sounds awful, right? It's like, no, I want what I want. But it's like, actually, sometimes you don't. That's my experience anyways,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, another one is like unlocking your body. I dance now, and that's a form of my mindful movement and my somatic practice is like I connect with my body by moving it. And it's beautiful and it's elegant and it feels good and it connects me to like intimacy within myself. And so I'm no longer seeking validation from other people. That was a huge one.
Yeah.
Being able to validate and take care of yourself and not outsourcing your needs. And that's not to say that we don't need other people.
That's a big one. Yeah.
But it's like knowing who and how to need, and not just giving. Yeah.
Good. So tell folks how do people connect with you?
Yeah,
your work?
absolutely. Conscious Lifestyle Coaching. Yeah. They can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram way too much. So Whitney Sauce is my handle on everything. You can find me at whitneysauce.com.
Whitney, WHITNEY, and then SAUSE.
Yep.
Whitney Sauce. Yeah, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook's
and
fine.
You're posting regularly, and they can reach out to you through those, friend you and then send you a DM, something like that.
I love emailing. It's like my favorite thing in the whole entire world. I love waking up and check my emails after I get my morning routine in. But they can also email me at whitney@whitneysauce.com.
Whitney@whitneysauce.com. All right.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, Whitney, thank you for joining us at Spirituality Adventures. It's been a delight to talk and share. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this episode. And take care. We'll see you next time. Hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for listening all the way through on this episode. By the way, if you're not already a supporter, go to spiritualityadventures.com, sign up for one of our monthly supports, and you will receive our bonus content. You'll receive lots of interesting information about our guests. Many of our musicians will do special bonus songs and record a song. So I want to encourage you to do that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe. Be sure and share any of the episodes that you like. And be sure and make comments if you like them as well. This helps us get Spirituality Adventures out there to more listeners, more watchers. So whatever platform you're using, subscribe, like, share, make comments, and go to our website, sign up for our team, and be a part of the team support. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.